Welcome to this evening's main event, which is a narrated slideshow by our chairman Brian Richards, in which he tells the story of a day trip to Lelystad Airport in the Netherlands, just east of Amsterdam and the country's largest general aviation airport, as well as home to the Aviodrome Air Museum. Hope you're going to enjoy it, so here's Brian.
Thanks, Andy. The photos that follow are from a day trip to Lelystad on the 19th of June 2012. We were a group of 7 that day, including branch members Kevin Jarvis, Kev Hart, the late Don Cheechan and myself. There was 4 of us travelling by EasyJet Golf Echo Zulu Foxtrot Golf from Southend to Schiphol, and meeting up with the 3 others, including a certain Paul Dunn, who came on an EasyJet flight from Stansted that arrived at Schiphol just 10 minutes later. After the formalities and getting our 2 hire cars, we first had to tackle the traffic jams caused by roadworks on the A4 motorway, and later trying to actually find the poorly signposted airfield. So the 70-kilometre drive took far longer than Google's theoretical 47 minutes. But on arrival, we received a warm and helpful welcome at the main inquiry desk that was expecting us. After signing in and quickly donning our high-vis jackets, it was a leisurely walk. Well, initially leisurely until we realised how many hangars and hidden ramps there were. Walk around the airfield, with closed hangars willingly opened on request, the only exception being the strictly off-limits Martinair ramp and hangar area. That day I logged 166 PH registered aircraft and an additional 63 non-PH registered, which I hadn't seen previously, plus a few more at the Aviodrome Museum, which is sited on the eastern side of the airfield. The Stansted 3 then rushed off to Tuga and Hilversum, but as the Southend flight departed to Schiphol a few hours earlier than theirs, the 4 of us left those 2 airfields for another day. Well, 9 weeks later to be precise, but on another day trip from Southend. But that's another story. The photos that follow are shown in chronological order. This Cessna 172 is operated by Fly Triple V, one of many flight schools and clubs based at Lelystad. Surprisingly, this Citation jet was the only bizjet I had logged. Mike Lima Lima was the first of many TB series aircraft we saw. Martinair's name lives on with this active flight school. This is a very attractive Pinguino Sprint and is part of the large and varied Wings Over Holland fleet. As everywhere in the world, Piper singles are popular in Holland. The Super Cub was already a 25-year-old design when PH Top rolled off the production line in 1965. The Katana is yet another Wings Over Holland type. Aircraft produced by Diamond, including the Diamond Star, are a very popular type at the airfield. This Swiss Fuji was the first of many non-PH registered airframes we saw, this particular one being stored following its crash in June 1986. This is a 40D variant with a Thielert Centurion diesel engine. This Fuji wears a patriotic colour scheme similar to that of many of the Wings Over Holland fleet. This German registered Sperling is also part of the Wings Over Holland fleet, but presumably isn't the type certified for Dutch registration. This Fuji is in partial Wings Over Holland fleet. Not sure which of our group was peering over the nose of the Cessna. Kev Hart, maybe? This Super Cub was delivered to the US Army in 1954 as an L-21B and was passed on to the Dutch Army before being demobbed in 1976. This very neat Cap 10B has someone who looks suspiciously like Kevin Jarvis behind it. If you didn't know where the Jabiru gets its name from, there's a wingtip silhouette of the black-necked stork just to show you. This Focke-Wulf 149D bears the camouflage scheme it wore as Luftwaffe's 9108. In the same hangar was this strangely lovely looking Broussard in Aeronaval's scheme. With what must surely be illegally painted registration mark, the owner of this extra is serious about aerobatics, as its wingtip smoke dispensers are clearly visible. This Cessna 185 amphibian seems to have an appropriate registration, but actually Dutch for duck is eend. However, those floats must be useful with all those canals about, and with Markermeer being adjacent to Lelystad town. We would have missed this P-51, but as we were about to leave another hangar, this chap said, "Follow me," and he opened the door which led into another hangar at the rear, which housed this beauty and a few other types which unfortunately were too close together to photograph. Yet another German registered aircraft, this Cessna 172 clearly shows it has been re-engined with a diesel unit. At last, a British-built aircraft, this the 15th ARV Super 2 off the Isle of Wight production line. Swedish registered for a change, this traveller had been resident in Holland since at least 2008. This 1971 non-resident Super Cub appears to have a twin-wheeled tail undercarriage. This lovely 1964 twin com is still active with the Dutch Airlines Pilots Aero Club. By this stage, we would begin to think that Holland had been permanently annexed by the Germans in 1940. Well, a Dutch registered aircraft, and a nice one too, and a very rare type in Europe. This one is for Nigel. Every GA airfield has to have a vans, and note this one still bears its previous N registration marks, which again must be illegal. The Skystar produced Pulsar 3 have higher powered Rotax engines than the Aero Design models. This very easy look-alike is actually French designed, and only 11 or so have been completed. A very smart Kit Fox, which flew later in the day. This four-seater looks to be a complex design to attempt to build at home, and I just wonder how many of those registered have actually been completed. This Technem Golf was one of the first aircraft we saw that was registered in the microlight category. But like London buses, in fact I eventually logged 24 in the microlights. One of half a dozen choppers we saw, many being active. Heli Holland is based at Lelystad and has a fleet of around 20, all mixed type. A TB9 of the ARS Flight Academy, Cessna 340 under maintenance, quite a surprise to see this British registered Jetstream, but very nice anyway. This Swiss Mooney was parked off a spur taxiway away from the main hangar area. A very smart Tobago. If only we'd had the time to grab a beer at that restaurant. A Cap 21 of the Stichlin Aerobatic Aviation. Boo Hiss, Martin Air, the only ramp and hangar that was strictly off limits. Unfortunately, not a very good picture of this Stearman, but it was taking off on its first post-restoration flight. This German R44 very sensibly has floats for flying in Holland. This smart Cessna 172 was one of no less than 21 N-registered aircraft I logged. And the final shot is one of the few twins we saw, but this pressurised Navajo is certainly a very attractive airplane indeed in which to close this presentation.
Thank you for that, Brian. That was an excellent presentation and I'm sure everyone will have enjoyed it. These stories of days out or longer are always interesting, at least to me, and I'm sure to others as well. Next we move on to the regular look at Stansted compiled by Michael Jones.